All right. Hello, willkommen, bienvenue, konnichiwa, ni hao, jambo, marhaba, and all the universal greetings. It's time for the Armist Inquisition yet again, episode 229 on Sunday, the 1st of May, May Day.
Bar wheat, grana, wheat, ninny bomb.
Bar wheat, grana, weep, ninny bomb.
Bar wheat, grana, wheep, ninny bomb.
Bar wheat, grana, weep, ninny bomb.
That's how you start a show.
Oh my gosh, right. I'm Amish Phil.
I'm Amish Ben.
I've got his fader turned down.
I'm Amish Matt.
Can we not dub him?
The cripple and the mother of madness.
We did, yes. And we're joined in the studio yet again by our great friend Ryan Seven. How are you, Ryan?
I'm really good. How are you lot?
Good. Good to see you again. It's been a few weeks, hasn't it?
Oh, for a change, yeah.
Life's been getting in the way, hasn't it? I think this is our third attempt at this tarot expedition, isn't it? And stuff keeps getting in the way. So good to finally see you again and
Get together.
yeah, and dive into this subject, very popular subject in our circle of, you know, podcasts and occult research and whatnot. Seems that tarot is incredibly important, a key, if you like.
It comes up often, doesn't it? It's seldom mentioned as a topic overall, but it's often mentioned in lots of other topics. I think I first heard of it in this esoteric arena with Terence McKenna.
Really? That's
Yeah.
an unusual place.
Well,
that
he was
you're
into alchemy, wasn't he? So, I mean, the actual first place I'd heard of it was, you know, generally as everybody else does. The first time I came across it was a girlfriend went for a tarot reading and had, it turned out she had Aleister Crowley's deck as well at home. Not his personal deck, but the one that he designed, which I actually have in my pocket.
Oh, right.
I've brought it with me just in case that you guys might want a tarot reading at the end for fun.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the tarot, I'm guessing most sort of standard history books or Wikipedia or internet searches will tell you that it goes back to like the Romany gypsies in the, I don't know how far back, maybe 15th, 16th century or something like that. Mm-hmm. Now, it seems to me that may be the earliest sort of firm written evidence people have of something called the tarot. But I mean, as far as I can tell, the stuff that it's sort of transmitting illustrates that it goes back a lot further than that.
Yeah, certainly the ideas and the concepts. You're totally right. It first pops up in the early 1400s. It seems to me like one of the reasons why it popped up was that you know in the late 1300s you had the Black Death, and everybody died, basically. And as often happens with this information, you can actually trace this stuff back to post the flood. That's when the stories around the information that's contained in the tarot pops up post flood. The first time we see it, the first time we see any writing at all, really. And it seems to be like a container, a book to restart civilization. So this body of information, which is your ancient handbag, guys, it's the same stuff in the handbag.
The man bag.
The man bag, you know, it gets carried along, and a lot of it's maths, a lot of it's philosophy. There's lots of things in there, weights and measures and ratios of things, and music, and there's bits of medicine and religion, and it's all put into this package, so that if anything does go horribly, horribly wrong, we've got this thing. So when does it pop up again? Well, it pops up just after the Black Death. It pops up in Venice, and it's these royal families, because a lot of it's to do with statecraft and things like that. Because it's like a lot of it's teaching you actual magic, including the stage magic stuff, which is misdirection and worse people's consciousness and propaganda.
Yeah. Beat me to it.
Yeah. So essentially, tarot is just another version of these holy royal secret arts. They've had many faces over the years. You'll find it in astrology. Astrology's got a big part of tarot. You'll find it in Kabbalah. You'll find it in the Bible. You'll find it in the Torah. You'll find it in the works of Buddha. You know, you find it in your fairy tales. You find it everywhere. You just got to dig in to really find out what it is. And it is that list of things. In fact, I remember a list of the first teachers of this stuff from Sumeria. You get a list of kings called the Sumerian Kings List, and next to it is a list of the numbers especially associated with this stuff, these special harmonic numbers. And next to each of these kings with an age like 432 years old and 1080 years old, you'll see a sage. One of the most famous one of these sages is Oannes, who I forgot what he's especially associated with. But each of these sages has something like, knows the heavens, was born in a house, i.e. he's an architect, he's civilized, knows the tools of the farm, he's got the knowledge of agriculture. And each of these 7 sages teaches one of these aspects, and it's a collection. And the reason why these guys came around is because the flood had happened. And then we need these guys to help us rebuild everything. So tarot is just another iteration of this stuff.
When you said this, the flood, do you mean like the Epic of Gilgamesh flood then, if we're talking Sumeria?
Well, it looks like, the actual end of the Ice Age flood, the actual, something's happened at some point. It does go into myth, and it does totally fit a theology, so it is symbolic as well, but it is real. Like many mythological kings were real kings at some point, and then they had archetypes placed onto them.
Right.
However, the actual story of the tarot cards themselves isn't anything particularly wonderful or splendid, or it literally just comes from real playing cards. Back in the late 1300s, you got to imagine that picture the Mediterranean. You kind of get it, there's a cut in, and then you get Africa at the bottom and Northern Europe over the top. That lower part, including some parts of Spain, were essentially Arab. They were Muslim areas. And then going up from that, you were Catholics and Christians. So there was this not very happy divide, but there was a happy cross-cultural fertilization that went on. And because around the same time paper had been invented in China and they were using it for money, this invention had quickly caught on, got to the Arab world, and they were making playing cards. And it was in Egypt, where these playing cards were turned into what's called Mamluk cards. The guys that were ruling Egypt at the time were called Mamluk. Yeah.
Arabs, yeah.
Yeah. So they invented a deck of 52 cards, which is the modern card playing deck. Fast forward a little, that caught on very quickly. And it was the deck, essentially. The suits were a little different. They were polo sticks for playing polo with, swords, cups, and coins. The only thing that's changed there is the polo sticks are now clubs or wands or whatever. Everyone says it's just they were just playing cards, and you look at them and they're very ornate and beautiful. But as a person that knows esoterica, you just one look at them and you're like, there's already something going on here. The fact that there were 52 cards in the deck and there's 52 weeks in a year was one of the first things that was like, so there's something here. Fast forward a little, those cards are picked up by the Italians in Venice. It's picked up by the whole world. And one of the games that people are playing, one of the simpler games that people are playing, is essentially top trumps, but with normal cards. And what it is like you put a certain card down, 2 of hearts. You need to put on another hearts over the top. I've not got one, you've got to put another card down.
Sounds like shithead.
I was going to say, which one
it's a lot like
excludes the deck?
shithead, like shithead, but you got trumps in there as well. So, a king will beat a 10, and you know what I mean? Or
Yeah, can you beat a queen?
yeah, that kind of thing. You can beat a queen if you want to, yeah. Cromwell might have done. So what happened, according to the actual traditional view of these, or not the traditional view, but the modern view of this, to the academics, is that basically this Italian family took it on. We're like, yeah, we'll need more trumps, so let's put a deck of 21 extra cards together, chuck them in the normal playing cards, and we've got this trump cards, like the fools at the bottom, and then the magician's the next one up, and then you get Pope a bit further up than that, and then you got some other higher forms up from that. And this would all seem quite plausible. But then when you look at things, first of all, as you said, the symbols themselves just are so important and layered with mystery and mysticism and philosophy and ideas that they were specifically chosen for a reason. And you can think of these things like flashcards for these ancient mysteries. And then when you look at the family that first developed, although not necessarily we know for sure first developed the tarot cards themselves, but the place where they first appear is between the Visconti and the Sforza families in Venice in the time of the Medicis and the Renaissance, and they are a wedding gift, and they're beautiful. They got gold leaf on them. They're very they're really well painted, every single one of them, and there's 78 of them. I think they've got a couple missing of that deck, but there should be 78 in the whole arrangement.
What's that? Is that 52 plus the major?
Yeah, I think we should talk about that maybe a little bit later because it's
72.
Well, we get 78, but yeah, we get into all that stuff. There's lots of. Well, go on. I might as well talk about. Let's do it for you. Okay, so there's 78 cards in the deck. 21 of those are called the major arcana, and the ones that everyone's familiar with: Death, the Star, the Fool, the Magician, all these ones. 21 plus a Fool. So it's not 22, it's 21 and a Fool. The Fool's very much like the wild card. He survives today in the Joker. The Joker card in the actual deck of cards. Yep. So we've already said that you get 52 cards in a normal playing deck. And the tarot is essentially, apart from those 22 and a Fool, is the normal playing card deck slightly expanded. So we have the 4 suits, as you do, which are the 4 seasons.
Yes.
Then we have an extra of the court cards. So, you get your Jack, Queen, King. Well, actually, in this, we have the equivalent of like Jack, Queen, King, and Princess. Often in tarot, the names are changed, but it's literally King, Queen, Knight, and Serf or Knave or whatever it'll be, or Princess. Will also do. You can have Prince and Princess, King and Queen. And what they actually are is just as the 4 seasons are encoded and North, East, South and West are encoded, those are the 4 elements. And you get 10 of each. And now we're getting into Kabbalah. There are 10 spheres on the Tree of Life in Kabbalah. The Sephirot, or spheres, are a series of emanations, the order of reality kind of contracting on itself until it becomes real, like things folding back in on themselves. And this is absolutely depicted in the tarot. You also have 16 court cards. We said you get the King, the Queen, the Prince, Princess. There are 16 of those all together because we have an extra suit. So now, if we play with all these things, we can quickly get how many days are in a year and weeks in the year and all these things. So the 21 cards of the actual major arcana are 3 tiers of 7. There are actually several divisions in there, and the basis of the tarot is actually Pythagorean number philosophy. 1 has a meaning, 2 has a meaning. We'll maybe get into this later, but it's those 21 cards are 3 sets of 7, and they go up an octave every time. You kind of transform in the octave as you go up.
7 notes in an octave.
Yeah, and 22 over 7 because the Fool's the wild card.
So the Fool is like the 0 card, isn't it?
The 0 card, yeah. There's a secret. There's further secrets to that, but we'll go into it. So that 22 over 7 is how the ancients wrote pi. That's how they did it. So you got these. So you got that. Let's put those to one side for a second. We've got this Fool card that's going to come into play because it's a bit of a wild card. So we have 40 numbered cards, like your ace.
So ace means is just a substitute for 1, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, ace, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
like that.
And because of the philosophy that we're dealing with, 1 isn't really a number. two's kind of getting towards being a number, but 1 is every number, and is this other concept. So we'll see in a second. It gets slightly dismissed. So we've got these 40 cards. There's 10 of each suit. Fire, water, air, and earth, also known as wands, cups, swords, and discs. I'll go over the meaning of those later. But what happens is that we kind of get rid of those because those are the 4 seasons, the 4 quarters of the year. And then suddenly we've got 36 cards for like 360 degrees in the year. But also we take those 4 cards and add the full, we got 365 days for the year. Do you get me?
Why are you taking 4 away?
So because
you had
those,
40, you got your 40
we've
number
got
cards.
40, yeah.
Why are we taking 4 away?
Because those are the 4 cardinal directions. So we're taking away the 4 cardinal directions and we lay
Right.
the rest around those.
Oh, fuck, right. So you're
Because
right.
if you remember, this is a good place to put it, but if you remember on the previous episodes, we actually said what is Tau row? Well, it's a Tau and a row. A Tau is a T cross and a row is like a P. So when you get the XP symbols or the TP symbols or the Ankh or whatever, these are all Tau rows. And this essentially means a wheel and a cross. And the wheel and the cross was an old-fashioned clock. It's you see it in the zodiac. That's a wheel and a cross. It's the wheel of the year, and the cross is the equinoxes and the solstices.
Yeah.
So this is the Tau row, the T and the R. And in fact, the word Tau row adds up to 50-40. T and P, as it would have been in Greek, it adds up to 36.
What is in gematria?
Yes, in gematria. There's an alphanumeric cipher. It's where A is equal to 1, B is equal to 2, down the alphabet. But you got to be careful what language you're doing it in, because although English and Greek are very related, they got extra letters and things like that. As has been driving me mad all week looking at those pillars, and some of them are W's and some of them are double V's, and it says 1360 on one place and 1666 in another, and it's driving me mad. Anyway, so what else can you derive from there? Lots of so we've done the 52 each year, 365. You get all these numbers basically that are calendrical things, which will give you a clue as to what is actually going on with those major arcana. I think it's worth, before we get to there though, speaking about these less interesting cards that actually turn out to be a bit more interesting. So we get the court cards of the king, the queen, the prince and the princess. And those go over the 4 suits. The wands, the cups, the swords and the discs or coins. And what that really is the king is fire, the wand is fire. There are 4 elements in the classical world. Each one of them is representative of a number, and that number is representative of a force and a feeling in the universe. So fire is energy, and is the stick, or so it's like a blunt force, or it's like you can set the stick on fire, or it's like a penis, it's masculine. So there's lots of things that are very much like this archetypal fire, but like the Tao, you can never label it. It's always this ethereal thing that you'll never quite put your finger on. Water is cups. You might call it mind, emotion. It's the fact that things can be contained, and it's a matrix to contain energy. Is the best way to put it.
Yeah, you can't put fire in a cup. You can put or air, but you can put water in a cup.
You can put fire in a cup. A battery would be fire in a cup.
Oh, right, okay. Why didn't you do that then?
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, have you never had a flaming sambuca?
My ex had gonorrhea.
God.
What a great place to end.
That's fire in a cup, isn't it? Anyway, that's not true. That's not true. I don't have an ex. So Carl Jung cottoned on to this and realized that those are actually states of mind, states of being, Fire is your energy in your life. The cup is your state of mind. The air is how good your intellect's working. A sword cuts things up, like your intellect cuts things up. Your intellect goes, hang on, that's like that, and it's like that. Okay, puts them all together. The disc or the coin. A coin is like energy put into a place, isn't it? And concentrate. It's like a token. It's saying that I've done so much work.
We were talking about
we
this
had this the other
last
week.
week,
Yeah.
how money is basically a representative of human energy. It's
Transfer, isn't it?
energy transfer.
Yeah.
This is, I've put 8 hours into a day, and this is what it is brought to me, and I'm going to exchange this for this thing that you've made with your energy. It's
Qualitative and quantitative. Because, you know, if you're just sweeping the road, that's worth, you know, that energy is worth so much. But if you're a brain surgeon, you know, that energy is worth a different amount. So a coin.
and if you're a politician, I mean,
You get
it's worth a
energy from
fortune.
others' work, don't you?
Oh, that may. Oh, yeah. Sorry. If you're an energy vampire, like
Energy
a politician,
Oh God, this make me sick. Anyway, this is a haven away from all that stuff. So where were we?
Something about
Oh
gonorrhea.
yeah, no, we're talking. We're talking about Carl Jung. Carl Jung had noticed that these are psychological states, and when he mapped it all out, from that work is how we've gotten the Myers-Briggs psychology test, which is one of the most profuse psychology tests out there.
is that the Big Five one?
I don't know which one it.
Matt, specialist required. Myers-Briggs.
That's a different one. The ocean is the big five, isn't it?
Right. Okay.
Never heard of the Big Five.
Big Five personality traits.
Yeah, that's the one that they eventually narrowed it down to. So it's like openness, conscientiousness.
Oh right, yeah, sorry,
extroversion,
yeah, I didn't know they called it the Big
agreeableness,
Five.
and
Yeah,
neuroticism.
okay.
So Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, so the Myers-Briggs. So there are lots of very clever people noticing that there are things tucked in here that are much more than it would seem. And I think those early Mamluk cards were noticed by these Renaissance guys in Italy, who were actually the wise men of the old world. You know, Constantinople was recently falling, and the old world of Greece and Palestine and all, you know, the world of the Crusaders was finally on its way out. We're at the end of the Middle Ages now, and the Black Death had seen a lot of things off as well. So you have this kind of a panic, a realization that, you know, you're at the end of an epoch and things need rebuilding. And you've got a lot of priests that are now in want of something else. Well, the world's turning into a place of merchants, so they need administrators and you know, other smart people that can read and write, because, you know,
It was exclusive. Literacy was exclusively held by the priesthood in the 14th century, and nobles.
yeah,
but there weren't many of them.
and merchants, but it was very rudimentary for merchants. So I mean, taking that even further, the very first card of the tarot of the very first Visconti deck is a scribe sat at a table. That scribe eventually became what's known as the magician, but he was sat at a table with a knife, some coins, a cup, and these were a representation of all these four elements again. So so how has it been used now? You know, this thing's been put together in Italy. We can forget, and everyone didn't realise it for a good while that something had been done in Italy. And they're all playing this game with these very suspicious characters. You even hear mentions by the clergy that, you know, they're gambling with these cards on a Sunday, and they even have the gods in them. Now, if you know what the gods are, they're the archetypes. They were never, certainly to the priesthood, they were never these things they were really worshipping. They were aspects of nature that they gathered together in icons so that they could understand them and work with them. And so these priests were quite aware of it. They let it slip a bit because they were vaguely hidden. Jupiter was called the Pope, and you know,
Right.
Mercury's
So
called the Magician.
The 21 major arcana cards encompass gods from the classical era.
Yes, absolutely. they
Shit,
do.
a brick.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. What those 21 arcana are the archetypes. Carl Jung's beloved archetypes. The first one being the trickster. Literally the magician, the trickster, the
Loki.
Montebank. Yeah, he would be Loki. Yeah.
Yeah, in Norse. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Fucking hell.
So they are now used, and were used in an interim. They've always had this connection to the ethereal and the supernatural. They used for, the most famously used for reading the future.
Like divination, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I first came across, and that's what I thought they were.
Could you actually play shithead with them though? If you
Yeah.
took the major arcana out,
Yeah,
and
it's just a deck of cards, yeah. Totally just a normal deck of cards. And in fact, like they were so influential that the modern cards come from that deck rather than those Mamluk cards. Shared history. So being used for fortune telling, they've got this supernatural connection for a reason. As Phil had said, they had connections to the gypsies, who had connections to Egypt, who there were these early figures in the tarot that were like Etiella and these other guys that were relating these cards to these old ancient Egyptian mystery traditions. They were found out to only go back to the 1400s, and that by the academics. The problem with a lot of the academics is, and I don't get it because it's overwhelming by now, surely, the importance of the wave of esotericism in the world now. 1500s when it was Bacon and Dee and all those guys, take a step back to Venice, that, because that is the step before Venice came to fund Henry VIII, the father of Elizabeth I, who then you get John Dee and Bacon and all these other guys. You take a step back, you go to Venice, the guys with the tarot. You take a step back to that, it's Greece, Alexander and all these other occulted figures. Alexander was literally made into a god.
Ptolemy.
The second tarot deck features Alexander as and the stuff of Alexander as it's very dark. Solar Busker deck. It's sodomy and goriness and really subversive.
Where's that from, that deck?
Florence, I think. It's these warring families. There's a guy written a book on it called The Saturn, A Game of Saturn, it's called. And the way he sees it, it's Alexandrian cult black magic, war magic, like Martian black magic.
Gosh.
Like proper war tactics and dark stuff. There's massacred babies on it and all sorts. And it was always such a pretty deck, and you're like, oh my God, a guy getting bummed by a spiky tree. And,
Oh my God.
yeah, it's weird.
Monkey puzzle, probably.
Monkey puzzle tree. Yeah, so like I said, you can go with this academic stuffy, but it just drives me wild that there's so much on the, even on the Rosicrucians. You just look at the Shakespeare stuff, that's pretty easy to penetrate. A folk will show you a few codes in there, and you're like, yeah, well, yes, they are there. Well, especially when it's typesetting and things like that where they're hiding the codes. Those are engineering mistakes. Right. That are set up to look like, the full stop. Why is the full stop over there? Why is that uppercase and not lowercase? And all these mistakes, drawing triangles, and suddenly you got the pyramids, and you know what I mean? And you got Roger Bacon's name in there, and Edward de Vere and John Dee, and it's like, well, Shakespeare's the bloody fake and all other similar things. But this same information over and over and over again in so many different cultures, and it winds up, boom, in the tarot. And for me, the tarot is the most accessible, the easiest to do, the best place, and the most Western version of all this stuff. And you see a lot of people appreciated that. Our friend Eliphas Levi, Elias Ashmole.
Ashmole, the one of the founding members of English
Of England.
Freemason.
But of England.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
Of modern. Yeah. So why did they all think that there was something in there?
See, to the man on the street, it's superstitious nonsense,
Yeah.
and maybe that's
Well,
why.
that's Scooby Doo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Scooby Doo. It's like, oh, there's a ghost in there. And like, let's not go in. And then you do go in and you go, oh, it's Mr. Idiot Brains from next door. He's got a gold mine of prostitutes.
Oh my god, Joe Biden,
He's just digging them up.
Hunter Biden. No,
So-
but do you know what I mean? It's written off. It's as superstition,
I did it.
fortune telling.
I did it.
Well, I think we all do it because
sensible,
of
yeah.
the
I'll never forget, sat on a train one night, and there's a lady, a very posh sounding lady, talking to a very posh sounding chap on the seats behind me, and they were talking about astrology. I'd have been in my mid-20s, and she goes, and the thing is, though, you wouldn't believe it, it all works like this, and I was just sniggering to myself, you know. And then years later, when I'd ended up, you know, the astrology thing particularly, I'd avoided it. I didn't want to. He was always staring me in the face. I'm like, I can't be arsed learning another stupid thing there. And then just enough times, it was like, no, it's not what you think it is. It's not the fortune telling thing. It's a system of psychology. And when I studied it, it is a system of psychology. That system of psychology, the most important parts of it, have been transferred into the major arcana of the tarot. So you get this mix of Pythagorean number philosophy, Pythagorean number philosophy, and an arrangement. So imagine this. You've got the 7 planets and the 12 principalities, the 12 houses of the zodiac. You hear about certain houses being like the domicile or other silly sounding words that basically mean that these two things get on. Saturn gets on with Capricorn. Jupiter gets on with Aquarius or whatever it'll be. When you put all the planets in the right place, they have a meaning. They have a meaning because the house of the zodiac means something and the planet means something. And then you get all these secret esoteric things that frankly we've explained in these last few episodes. And they are literally put together, encapsulated into each of these tarot cards. So for example, the sun has its unique home in Leo, which is August. It's the hottest days. So the tarot card for Leo is a lady sat next to a lion, and she either closing its mouth or opening its mouth. So what's the lion? The lion is the devouring nature of man. It's that thing that makes you want to go and do something. If a kid wants to go and do something and not having as many inhibitions as we do, they will go and devour it. Oh, look, a grasshopper. You know what I mean? Oh, look, mummy. Oh, no. You know what I mean? They just want it that much. So this devouring aspect is very much linked to sex, as you can imagine. It being the main driving force of people. So who is this maiden next to the lion? Well, there is a maiden next to the lion in the sky. It's Virgo.
Right.
And then when you take into account what goes on with Virgo, you realise that what she's doing is using a little wisdom, just calmness and understanding and a few of the feminine qualities to take that roaring sex force that you've got that makes you want to, you look, if you just let your inhibitions go, you'd eat everything that you wanted to eat.
You shag everything.
You drive at 500 miles an hour down the motorway. Do you know what I mean? You'd punch that small child that was being horrible. Do you know what I mean? and not just wring its neck quietly when no one's watching. So there's this force, and it can be calmed by wisdom, by just count to 5 and see who you are then, and like, no, I understand that you have these feelings, but now's not the time. You know what I mean? And other such similar.
Oh my gosh, it's unconscious and conscious brain again, isn't it?
It totally is. It is. But funnily enough, it's on that one. it's like a conscious unconscious and an unconscious conscious.
What?
So the lion would be an unconscious consciousness. It's that sex drive that you've got is very, you can see it, you know it's there, you just can't control it. It is unconscious, but not, it's an unconscious impulse, but it's very conscious when you're there.
Oh,
you
right,
know
yeah.
damn well what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's just, can you stop it?
Yes.
Whereas hers is the quiet voice that's actually quite unconscious inside.
I've got a headache.
Yeah. That one. Again. And there you go. So we're always dealing with these polarities, but as you say, always conscious and unconscious. So we've got this stacking of the wisdom of the zodiac in there. But if you wind it back and we go to the first card, we've got this zodiac stuff definitely, but this Pythagoreanism as well.
Right, which card's this?
This card is card number 1. In fact, should we just, to help everybody at home?
Do you want to throw a picture on?
Yeah,
That's
so
the Fool.
That's
There
the
we go.
Fool. So we'll not talk about the Fool.
Go to this one.
So there's the Magician. I did these cards, by the way, about 8-9 years ago.
Lovely.
So the Magician is he's very dark on this, which is good. He's doing an above and above below point, and on the most popular deck, he'll have a table in front of him with a sword, a cup, a wand, some discs. Why is it in front of us?
I'm just looking at the magician with his table.
All right, there you go. Yeah. So he's got his things around him. On the very first card, as has been said, he was a scribe. He's got a quill, a book, some cups with some ink in them, and a few other things that are necessary to the scribe. What do a scribe and a magician have in common? Well, a magician makes symbols and uses those to get his way. So it might be a ritual. It might be a new word. It might be a narrative that you've put out. Remembering that most magicians and wizards were essentially Merlin characters and advising the king, if not themselves being priest kings. Mm. So what's this got to do with a scribe? Well, a scribe's creating media. A scribe is taking reality and putting it into symbolic form. Now, it's up to the scribe to determine. The king may say one thing. If the scribe writes something else and hands it to somebody, we've got a magic going on here. We've got a gap between the source and the receiver. And in this gap, Mercury fills that gap. Mercury goes above and below. Mercury is the god of communication. But he's also the trickster god, because he can distort that communication. Here we have Mercury, the trickster god. The other thing about Mercury is that he's androgynous. He has the male and the female with him in him. Well, this is the Pythagorean number philosophy of the number 1. The number 1 contains 2 within it. Seems weird, but it does. Why? Because we've got a 1. Well, you're a 1, aren't you? I'm another 1. Well, we've got 2 now.
Yeah.
Or if I say I'm me. Well, if there's a me, there's a not me. Or if I say there's a place, well, there's another place that's not that place. Or there's a perimeter of that place. You can't have, in this universe, you can't have 1 without having 2.
We fucking talked about this a couple of weeks ago, about dividing 1 with the sword of, you start off with a 1, a singularity,
Sword
a
of
singular.
Damocles.
And then as soon as you divide that 1, that gives you 2. And from 2, plus your 1 that you started with, you derive 3. And we go back to the Gnostic fucking creation philosophy again.
And there you go. Yeah, that's what these cards are. The first card is the Magician, this androgynous number 1 character. The second card is the Feminine, the High Priestess. The third card is, what happens is that the Magician, the first card, the High Priestess, the second card, enter into a combination with each other and produce this third thing. Well, on my deck, if you go to the third one, she's preggers.
Right.
Because she's pregnant with this 4th thing. Because you think so 1, you can't have 1, it's 2. You can't have 2 because 1 and 2 are in a system with each other and making 3. Well, you can't have 3 because that 1 and 2 in a system has actually created something else. Because I've got some ideas, you've got some other ideas, they combine together. We have a little thought baby. She's pregnant with it. And we got a 4th thing. And then it's that fourth thing starts off again. That fourth thing's just the same as that number one, and then you're off again. And as Pythagoras liked to point out, obviously we count in tens. You only need to count to 4 to be able to get to 10.
This is when you say the Pythagorean number theory, are we talking about this pyramid?
The
that starts
tetractys.
off?
Yes,
Te-
you are,
how, do, what, how do you say it?
the tetractys.
Right, yeah. So you start with 1 here, then 2 above it, then 3, then 4.
4. Yeah.
Snooker.
Yeah.
Racking up a pool table.
It's exactly what we've been talking about with the tarot. 1 at the top, unity, the monad, fire. Beneath it, water, duality. Beneath that, we've got what's called the 3 modes. So I like the Indian version. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, the creator, the maintainer, and the destroyer. In astrology, they know it as cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Cardinal means like a hinge on a door to open.
Yeah.
Fixed means to keep it going, and mutable means to mutate, to change.
And what about the Holy Trinity of the Judeo-Christian ethic?
Yeah, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
So we have the creator,
the maintainer, the Christ, and the destroyer, the changer, the feminine aspect, who gives birth to things and, literally destroys her old form and creates a new one.
Amazing.
So this is all over this stuff and teaches you. They are flashcards. That's exactly what they are. They're flashcards to teach you this ancient. Oh my God! I'm pretty sure that's why they built Göbekli Tepe. These numbers are all over those pillars.
I mean, one of the things that struck me earlier on when you mentioned about this being used sort of when civilization is reset, that's one of the advantages with symbolism, is that it doesn't require any linguistics or knowing any particular script or language. These things go beyond that.
So at home, everybody, over this last good while, I've been writing a book. And this week I've gotten to a chapter where I've been considering symbols themselves and what symbols really are. Obviously, your brain thinks in symbols. That's how it works. You take in something in reality, you map it in your brain. That's a symbol. That's how your brain works. Symbols and pattern recognition. And when we think symbol, it's quite right that you think of an image, but a symbol isn't necessarily an image. A symbol could be a dance, a symbolic dance. It could be a song. That song she was singing, sounded like she was singing. There's a famous one by Common, the rapper Common. I used to love her, but really he's talking about hip hop. He doesn't like hip hop anymore. He's gone a funny way. He doesn't love her anymore. Right. So we speak in symbols and metaphors and all these other similes. But there's something special about this visual art of symbols. And it happens as soon as we create anything. The simplest thing you can create is a dot, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You put your finger in the sand, you put your finger in the mud. That's the simplest thing we can artifice. Well, actually, that dot has a meaning, doesn't it? We use words. Do you get the point? Do you know what I mean? You point to it, or I put a full stop on the end of that. Or you know what a point means? It's this terminus. It's a pin in a map. It's a dot at the end of a word. It's the mark you've left on somebody. Do you know what I mean? We take 2 points and you draw. It's a line, isn't it? You draw a line there. Well, look. How many things have we got already that are basics of reality? We've got a here and a there. We've got a north and a south. We've got a destination. We've got do you know what I mean? There's so many things conjured up in our minds because there's a line on something. How about this? We want to use a line as a device. We're lost. We're in a cave somewhere. I draw a line on the ground. You're thinking, well, yeah, okay, it means a direction, but which direction does it mean? It's not good enough, is it? It's nearly there, but you've got this polarity to it. You can draw a little arrow on the end and indicate something else, but what you're doing is making it asymmetrical then. Well, you know, there's so much meaning in all these things straight away. Asymmetry would be like, there's a dead end the other way. Do you know what I mean? There's so much invoked by the simplest a circle. Everyone says, well, what's the meaning of a circle? It's infinity, and it never, there's no beginning and there's no end, and there's an inside to it and there's an outside to it. And you put a point in there, whoa, we've got the symbol for gold and the most important symbol for the ancients, the symbol of consciousness. The symbol of consciousness is that you've got this egoic rim, this egoic wall around the outside, and then there's a central something in the middle that's powering all this stuff. That's the you. That's the you. The center of it, because everything has a center, doesn't it? You could say the whole universe is made up of centers.
It does, but what's interesting is you can't nail it down. It doesn't matter how far you drill down, you can't find the absolute center of everything.
I think
it goes back to like squaring of the circle.
Yeah, I think that's to do with that number one principle again.
Because it's everything.
Everything is
and
one. And one. Yeah, and everything is one. The alchemists call it the one thing, and I think that's a great way of putting it. But they equally thought that everything had an axis mundi, a centre to itself.
Well, it's everything but nothing, isn't it?
Well, nothing isn't a thing, though.
It's not, yeah. You can't quantify it. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, nothing doesn't exist.
Right, okay.
You need it to, because you're existing, it's got some weird existence in you. Because you're thinking nothing, and that thought is a thing.
Do
you get me?
Exists.
Yeah, that exists. When really,
it's like when they say what happened before the Big Bang. Nothing. Well, that's not good enough. It's not good enough, is it? Because nothing doesn't exist.
Well, everything happened before the Big Bang. That's the yeah.
Yeah, I like how a lot of this symbolism is relatable to like cutting edge cosmology. And like we talk about the singularity, the singularity of the Big Bang or a black hole. It's like these guys already knew this before the Hubble Space Telescope.
Well, okay, so we're talking about the first card, the magician. What he really is, those things on his table are those four elements that we discussed before: the fire, water, the air, and the earth. And because he's number one, he is everything. He's the index of the book. He's all the things labelled out. He's got his cup, he's got his sword, he's got his wand. You know, he's a magician, he's got his cloak on. But he's only an initiate magician. He's only the number one. He's not got through to number 21 yet. That's because all these cards are the same character. All these cards are a journey. You could see it as the fool's journey, the path of the fool. He kind of meets the magician, learns his trade. Oh, I'm a magician now. Meets the high priestess. Oh, I'm a lady. Meets the, and he's going through this journey. It's you. The whole thing's you. They're all aspects of you in the universe around you. Here's one of the strange things. I love this. I thought it myself, and then I heard Manly P. Hall put it much better than I put it. And that was, okay, one is perfect. One is the whole universe. But it's not experienced itself yet. And strangely, it gets closer back towards actual unity. Number one gets closer to unity the further it goes through numeration. Because if you think about God, in inverted commas, the universe, was everything. So everything in the universe is that one thing divided up.
Right.
Yeah. Mm. Well, if everything's one thing divided up and you start off as one thing, you're getting closer to the being that one thing again, the further... Do you know what I mean? You can imagine there'd be a planet, let's say Jupiter, suddenly had his own big ideas and went, right, I'm having you, and went around collecting all the matter. Yeah?
I'm struggling because I'm thinking it's getting more atomized, but you're saying it's getting closer to one.
You're one and also part of one.
Right.
You're one and part of this larger one. You're a division of that larger one.
Yes.
Right? But as you, look, it's in your life. You might be, well, Phil, when you're born, yeah? Most of your characters are already there in your genes or whatever. You're yet to be shaped by life. But, the basics are in there. But you're getting closer to being you the older you get. As long as you're focusing on life and trying to release yourself, you get closer to being one if you keep your eyes open and keep doing your thing as you get older. Do you not feel more yourself now than you did when you were 20? but there's more of you.
Right.
So number itself, as the numbers
watch
get
this.
bigger.
Let me
I do
just
apologise.
turn it off.
That's all right.
Go on.
As numbers get bigger, as you accrue more knowledge, you come closer to being one again.
Well, this sounds very Gnostic as well, because this sounds like, you know, you're meditating and you're being ascetic and doing all these things, and the goal is to become unity again, to sort
Yes.
of escape the reincarnation trap and ascend into above the seven spheres and into the
Yeah, this is that serpent knowledge that we keep talking
Snake
about.
Brothers,
Yeah,
Brotherhood of the Serpent.
it's that the seven serpents in you, the chakra, mostly the as just the seven virtues, the seven vices, whatever you want to call them, instinctual forces within you that they've whittled it down to seven to make it easy to remember. These are the serpents, and you've got to overcome them. And the serpent wisdom is knowing that there's a card in the tarot. Of course there is. We should look at it, actually. It's the devil. It's card number 15.
15.
You know it's the devil because there'll be a devil on there.
Will it look like Simon Cowell?
It will look like this one.
Is that one?
Yeah. So I've done him as Baphomet on this. So on the devil card, the devil is an aspect of Saturn. Saturn is the great serpent. The devil's the great serpent. We've just said the serpents are these unconscious driving aspects of yourself. And what that does is these two people at the front, I've actually done them
Anton
as
Deck.
Phobos and Deimos, the two moons of
Mars.
Fear and terror is what they mean in Greek.
Really? I didn't know
Yes.
that. I thought Phobos would be something to do with light. But no.
Phobia.
Like phobia.
Phobia, of course, yeah.
So, what does the devil do? Well, he enslaves you, doesn't he? He gets you like a Faustian pact. He gets you in his grasp, and he goes, "Oh, you want the drugs? These drugs feel good." And you go, "I like the drugs. They feel so good in my body." And then I take the drugs for too long, and now
Quiet, Annabelle.
I'm going to bring Annabelle on the screen. No, don't do that. Annabelle's a strange puppet that's got in the background. Not supposed to be a puppet, but she keeps moving on her own. So we've got Phobos, Deimos, and what the devil does is by, whispering in your ear when there is a vice around, he kind of gets you attached to it and gets you chained up, and you're not. There's chains on this image.
This famous temptation, isn't it?
Yeah,
The temptation
yeah.
of Jesus on the.
And you get chained to your addictions by being tempted. You give in. The devil's got you, but it's
Forge
more,
another link.
yeah. But you do it yourself, really.
Yeah.
And you'll see on these as there is on the more common ones that the collar's very loose. You can just take it off anytime you want to.
Brilliant. I love that.
And
Yeah, it's not on. You can take it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you can take it off
it's
anytime you want to.
it's voluntary to a degree.
To a degree. Baphomet up there himself, representing what you can do well with these animal instincts. Baphomet got turned into the devil, but even the devil's not really the devil. It's this Scooby-Doo stuff again. They're trying to scare you away. The devil is all the iconography of Pan from the ancient Greek pantheon.
Right.
Mr. Tumnus.
Yeah. who is this sexual ardor? Again, it's you wanting to go and get things. Can you control it or not? That's if you were to whittle everything down in the humanistic aspect of all these mystery traditions, it's that. You often see the Masons riding the goat and all these other weird stuff. Never heard of that one.
Masons riding the goat. I know about the lambskin.
The old Willy coverer.
Yeah, willy coverer. But no, not goats. What's the goat?
These when Masons really started getting a bad name during the 70s and 80s, satanic panic.
What, 1770s?
Well, I know it's been going on a long time, but in the modern day, they started getting
Oh,
back
right,
up again,
yeah.
didn't they? 70s, 80s. In Britain, it was because they were institutionalized with the police, and
Yes.
very overtly so. In America, it's because guys like the Shriners were actually openly riding around on goats and doing other Masonic things.
What's wrong with that?
I know, yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, and it looked like a right jolly old time. But you can imagine most of the public misunderstand it. Really, what they're saying is, can you ride your dragon? Can you ride your goat? The goat is that horny old goat. You have horny parts of you. Can you, somehow seize hold of it and ride it instead of letting it ride you?
Did we do that as well?
Oh, look, the problem was that they were having too much fun, and they were using funds to get ladies of the night and other things like that.
All right. Taking it too far, lads.
Well, that's the thing about these occult traditions, because sex is so much a part of it. This polarity stuff is sex, isn't it? It's male and female. The whole thing, all the way down, is sex. So you're going to get horny people getting ideas and using it.
Shall I turn this card off? Are we done with what was it? The devil card.
The devil card.
What's this yellow glowing thingy? I can't quite make it out.
That's a torch pointing downwards, as in Cortes, who's on the Mithraic. Sorry, my fault.
It'd be better.
If I look you in the eyes while I'm doing it.
Well, no, it's because you're expressing yourself and looking, and they're very directional. That's better. Sorry, the torch pointing down.
Pointing
Mithraic.
downwards. Cortes, there's Cortes and Fannies on the Mithraic Tauroctony images, and you'll see a guy pointing a torch up and a guy pointing a torch down. Torch up, consciousness heading upwards. Torch down, consciousness heading downwards into the underworld. So it might be for bad reasons, but it might also be for good reasons, because lots of shamanism is based around going into the underworld, which is your own psyche, essentially.
Similar to the Eliphas Levi Baphomet with the occult symbol of the cult, one's going up, one's
It
going
is
down.
Literally,
Similar idea.
No, it is that. I've taken it from.
Right. Cool.
And, but again, Levi took his Baphomet essentially from the tarot, and that Baphomet that you see was done for his. He did a few cards for the tarot. He did the Wheel of Fortune, which we did in previous episodes. Baphomet is his most famous figure. That Baphomet's got that Baphomet. If the devil was a good guy, that's Baphomet. So it's just funny how it's been. He didn't intend it to be anything dark, but it's been understandably put that way. But it just shows you how few people actually know what all this stuff is.
Is that the one with the big chaps?
Yeah.
Right.
The
Still on the
androgynous
same page.
goat man with a caduceus for a penis.
Yes. Yes.
Lucky.
Got two snakes there as well for extra little tickle.
Well,
So I think mentioning Levi, it's interesting to note folks like MacGregor Mathers, who had a lot to do with it because of Arthur Edward Waite, who made the most famous tarot decks. Yes, these are guys from the Golden Dawn. Because as you introduce things, you were saying that why tarot's got such a big. Tarot seems so meaningful to so many of these modern-ish esoteric practitioners. Golden Dawn, all of the Masons, they're all obsessed with the tarot.
you said someone A.E. Waite. He was
Arthur Edward Waite, yeah.
is a member of the Golden Dawn, or was a member of the Golden Dawn.
Yes.
I'm sure I have several books on my wish list that are written by him. I had no idea who he was.
Probably, yeah. Yeah. If you're
Shit.
dealing with all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah. He was obsessed with the Grail mysteries and everything else.
Grail mysteries,
Yeah.
that's why. Right. Fuck. Right, so he was a magic man.
Yeah, oh, absolutely was. A very pompous guy, and you'll want to punch yourself in the face while you're reading his stuff, because the man's an ass. As
Have
my
you-
friend would put it.
Have you ever had like an urge to get involved in the occult societies, Golden Dawn, or
Yeah, but I've never bumped into them, and as with you, I'm an autodidact. I've always
sounds painful.
an autodidact. Everybody, somebody who teaches himself. I don't, you know, I've had a couple of good martial arts teachers when I was younger, but essentially for everything else, from, you know, making music to making everything, I've taught myself. And I wished for teachers, but it turned out that my inquisitive nature was my best teacher, and my bullshit detector as well. Yeah.
I was just curious whether you'd, you know, have considered, you know, because you're so deeply invested's the wrong word, but deeply interested in these subjects, whether, you know, I'm very skeptical and cautious when it comes to things like Golden Dawn and what's the other famous one, the Crowley one? OTO.
Yeah, OTO.
You know.
Ordo Templo
Orientis. Yeah. Oh, C.W. Ledbetter. Sorry, well, we've been completely ignoring
my
the comments
word.
all night. C.W. Ledbetter. That's another guy who's on my reading list. I'm not sure why.
C.W.
We'll
Leadbeater.
find out eventually.
Oh God, which one was he? It rings a bell for me. I think, wasn't he something to do with what's his face? Gurdjieff.
Oh, right. Good, yeah.
I'm not sure. I know Leadbeater. I've read some of his stuff, but I can't remember where the hell I've heard of him from. He's definitely to do with the occult stuff, and definitely something to do with the Western tradition as well.
I'm currently working up the courage to start Gurdjieff. I've read Uspensky, who was his like number one disciple,
Yeah,
and
Uspensky.
who sort of decoded the ramblings of Gurdjieff, and I don't think I'm ready for it yet. And there was another guy. Because I was emailing someone the other day about it. Gurdjieff.
Jeff.
Oh, it's gone. Sorry?
Jeff someone.
Jeff, it could have been.
Gurdjieff.
Yeah. Yeah, but these are very difficult. Uspensky is difficult. You know, earlier when you were talking about a point, about the simplest symbol you can make was a point, and then 2 points, which makes a line.
Yeah.
I was thinking you were going into like the dimensions then.
I could have done. Well, that's
But
where.
it bends my head.
Yeah, Pythagoras would like to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that well. One of the strange things is that once you start to unpack all that stuff, all the point, the line, you're realizing it's to do with that tetractys. That tetractys of Pythagoras was picked up by the Kabbalists and turned into the Kabbalistic tree of life, and then
Would that be the early Jewish?
it's associated with the Jews, but it's clearly been taken from, you know, the Pythagorean.
Yeah, so
Greeks.
from Pythagoras, ancient Greece, then transposed to the
Spanish
Jews.
So there's your key. So he's from around here, really.
Spanish Jews?
Spanish Jews, yeah.
Who were they?
The Jews that lived in Spain. So after you had your
After the exile?
yeah, after the exile,
Right.
loads of them lived in Spain. They got kicked out. Well, you think about your Portuguese fellow there,
Ronaldo?
Chris Columbus. He was like a crypto Jew, as they called them.
Crypto
A
Jew.
crypto Jew. So you like,
was
right,
doing some
everybody,
Bitcoin.
you can fucking start merging and trading him. Well, a lot of that information of getting to the Americas is very much bound up with the Templars and with copper mining and things like that.
Right.
Are you aware?
And
We're going off at such tangents, but it's so easy.
Columbus sailed under the Templar Cross, I believe, didn't he?
He did, yeah. So what had happened with Columbus is that he was one of these Jewish guys that was, either you're Christian or you're out. And he's like, so then he's off. He's off flying under that Templar flag. And obviously they'd been to Israel and Palestine and all those places, picked up a lot of this information. We know, even though...
His brother, wasn't it, who stole the maps?
Oh, wow, I've not heard this.
What was his brother called? John?
Steve? I don't
Steve? Yeah, it was his, I think it was something to do with his brother, who was a cartographer in Venice. And there was some chicanery went on. He either hid maps, or he copied some maps and burnt the originals, or he copied some maps wrong and then gave them to the competition. He was involved in some sort of conspiracy theory.
I've heard Dean was a little embroiled in this as well.
John Day?
Yeah.
That won't surprise me.
He was supplying a lot of those maps, because didn't he have like a Mercator map or something? Like, he had one of those, these famous maps.
Like the Piri Reis.
Yeah, all those things. He had one of those. And yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it's just such a mystery, isn't it? And if you're not there, you can't tell. You can't say,
What
can't
we
you?
do
There's so
know
much
for sure,
speculation.
though, is that there were trade routes to the Americas.
Yep.
For definite, the cocaine mummies. Do you know about the cocaine mummies? For
go on.
everybody out there that doesn't know about the cocaine mummies, your mum's an addict. No, actually, a lot of the mummies in Egypt have tobacco and cocaine on them, used to, as part of the desiccation process, as part of the ritual process, perhaps. Obviously, because cocaine and tobacco both do something to you when you're not dead. We've found sweet potatoes.
But
why?
what's the importance of tobacco and cocaine?
That's a good question, that, Philip. Well, everybody, cocaine and tobacco are only grown in the Americas and aren't from these parts of the
They're
world.
not native from Eurasia or Africa.
No. And that and many other things. And the fact that it seems that actually, if you kind of know the way, you can get blown over there quite easily on a raft or similar.
Oh yeah, I read a book last year. I think it was it not? No, it wasn't 1492. That's Columbus. It was like 40 years before that, like 1452 or something. The Gavin Menzies book, and he charted the Chinese treasure fleets circumnavigating the globe 80 years before Columbus, and all sorts of monuments in North America from the voyage. But history is such a.
There's a famous one that was to do with the shepherd. Oh, there's a famous monument down south that was to do with the Holy Grail. Dan, whatever his name is.
Dan Brown.
Dan Brown. The Shepherd Monument or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it says Enarcadio Ego, whatever it is. It's a famous thing. I'm surprised you don't know about it. Basically, to do with all this Templar stuff and all this Holy Grail stuff, a stone was found in America that had Preston written on it in Hebrew. Do you know how much Preston's wound up with the Holy Grail legends?
No.
With the Jacobites and all that lot.
Oh,
bringing it down. They had hold of it, apparently.
Which Jacobite rebellion are we talking about? The Jewish one or the Scottish one?
The Scottish one, yeah.
The Scottish one.
The Scots came down, and there's some tussle happened.
Battle
there,
of Preston,
yeah. And they brought down as like a standard this thing that had the Holy Grail in it. Yeah.
Take that
It
trinket,
was a
lads.
stone or something like that. It was described as. Yeah. Well, look how much Masonic stuff's around Preston. Just walk around Preston Park. You got a bloody obelisk.
Yeah.
Normal parks don't have an obelisk or sphinxes on the benches.
A priest town.
My favourite one was my mum had come to visit me and I was showing her the beautiful park that we have in Preston. And coming from Bolton, mum doesn't know such things. No, Bolton's lovely. So we're walking up. Sorry, nobody will know what I'm on about out there, but there are a couple of bridges on the park. There's the railway bridge, and then there's the one that everyone can still walk over, and there's the one that's been shut down, the old tram bridge.
The old tram. Yeah.
So as you approach that, there's a post, and we were just talking about the work that I've been doing. And I said, oh, look, that looks like Hermes Caduceus staff there. And sure enough, it was this thing wrapped up and snaking up. And we got there, and there was the head of the Sphinx on there, Orion constellation, things in Hebrew, yeah. I'll take a photo.
How old
of
is it?
Probably 20s or 30s. Looks Art Deco to me. But a lot of Preston's Art Deco, Masonic.
And Preston's a very historical town. At least going back to the Roman times, we have a road called Watling Street Road,
Right.
which is an old Roman road.
Yeah.
And the battle that Boudicca was defeated in was the Battle of Watling Street. And Watling Street was a road that went, I think, probably from the Midlands up near enough to Newcastle in a sort of a shit, wavy way.
But like a motorway kind of an idea.
It was one of the main sort of archery roads that the Romans
Right.
built, Watling Street. And so she was defeated at Watling Street Road. And we have a bit of it that's sort of survived on our maps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big
Has,
houses.
has that got anything to do with the A6? I know the A6 is a bit like that, isn't it?
A6
Is it a bit of Roman?
could be.
Because I grew up in a little village called Blackrod that had been a Roman fort. I remember,
Right.
I think for a while there was a black emperor of Rome that had kind of, or certainly a high regent or something like that that was guiding the armies from there. Yeah, and they
Could
got
well
all
be.
Roman walls, and famously Rivington as well has lots of Roman roads.
Ribchester. So Ribchester was a fort. It seems that the Ribble was important. Anywhere where there was
Yeah,
a
the-
decent waterway would be where they would set up
Is
fortifications.
it Belisama? What did they used to call it? It had like a goddess. It was.
Fresh Prince of Belisama.
That's the one.
Is it Belisama? I can't remember. But yeah, it was important to the Celts before then as well. It's had a, they paste these things over the top of previous.
This
Exactly.
area from like Standish is apparently where Camelot was, if there was a Camelot. Just around the corner from here. It's that period, that early medieval period to the mid medieval period. Really, actually, very important place. And then you skip on a little bit, Industrial Revolution around here. So there's, it is quite an important place. As much as we put it down and kind of have a joke.
Oh, of
about
course we do,
round
yeah.
here.
But it's been a melting pot for a couple of thousand years at least. It's weird, like you mentioned, like the cotton trade, and you couldn't, I can see from my bedroom window an old cotton mill,
Would that
and
be
then
Tulketh?
yeah, it'd be Tulketh Mill, and then I can drive to Ribchester and I can see a street named Sarmatian Street, which was
Sarmatian?
named the Sarmatian Cavalry, were Roman auxiliaries,
All right.
like the horse archer from the steppe
Yeah. wow.
tribes. Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
Isn't it? Because the world is actually so small. And we, people complain. Basically, what I want to say is cultures have always intermingled. And isn't this a wonderful thing? And we've
Yep.
got so much to teach each other, good and bad. You shouldn't be behaving that way. Oh, that's so cool. And it's wonderful. England's often put across as this mongrel nation. And yes, it's true. There's been a lot of visitors to these small damn piles. But that's true everywhere. Maybe not like the North Pole, but everywhere else. We're just talking about South America. The South Americans clearly have a Chinese heritage. You look at them, especially around getting towards the very south tip. They have a very Oriental. God, you can't even say anything anymore. Orient means the East, everybody. Oriental looking. They're Eastern looking. You go a bit further up, a bit more Western looking, and then when you start looking at the DNA and things like the blood groups and stuff like that, well, that is true. The people from what we call China now came over a land bridge over the top and got
And
into
yeah, the Inuits, they have
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
same sort of similar characteristics.
similar facial features. Yeah.
Phenotype.
Yeah.
Xenomorph. Well, Ryan, we've blown over an hour already.
Oh,
I think we should.
Only 3 more hours to go.
Yes, for the tarot. Yeah.
Part one.
Yes,
God, I'll
that's,
say we've not even touched on it really, but yeah, that'll do.
As usual, Ryan sent over 80 slides this evening, and we looked at 3. So plenty to go at.
It's a ploy.
God, you don't want to do all that. I mean, I'll tell you what, if you actually want to do a serious one on the tarot, I'm very happy to go through the cards for you.
This wasn't a serious one about the tarot.
Right.
I did zero preparation. Those cards I made myself, as if I've made those for you lot. That took me a year.
That's expecting 78 episodes.
Has anyone ever made like a modern tarot deck?
Yeah.
It's
I know.
just- you've just seen it.
Yeah.
Well, of course, yeah. Sorry,
But
but
the
like,
intention of my deck was you need to have some layering there and some secrecy. You need to be able to put these ideas into a pictorial symbolic form. So of course there are veils there between what you intend and what somebody else is able to extract from it. However, as much as humanly possible, I took those things away.
right.
And it's as simple as they can get, and everything's there. If it's something to do with a magic mushroom, I drew a bloody magic mushroom. If it's something to do with sex, I drew a willy and a vagina. You know what I mean? I broke it down as much as I could, because I am bloody sick of these veils.
I was thinking more of like a pop culture deck.
There's
Boba Fett.
Well, we were joking about.
There is a Star
Ant-Man
Wars
deck
one. There's
on
a
the,
Street Fighter one. There's
Is
all
there- is
sorts.
there?
Yeah. They're very collectible, so you get all kinds of decks.
Wow.
But whether
Like
those
Pokemon
are
cards.
tarot or not anymore, I wouldn't.
right,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Just
Well-
art. Just
Yeah, just cool.
Well,
Are
it's-
you going to answer Tony's question?
what's Tony's question?
Tony's question. He said, "Can you unfold, read the meanings of the tarot using your subconscious, using the pack type, which resonates with you personally?"
Yes, you can, Tony. However, there are only certain decks I would recommend.
not the Star Wars one.
Not the Star Wars one, the Lord of the Rings one, the My Little Pony one, the Batman Begins one. That's no.
Are we feeling an Amish Inquisition one for the loot chest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So Rider Waite's got it. The old Visconti ones have got it. If you want to get hold of me, I can send you a copy of my deck if you want that. I use the Thoth deck mostly, as Helen White says up there. I've actually brought the Thoth deck with me tonight.
Right.
That's the one I learned from. That's the most difficult one. That's Crowley's deck. But again, like me, he's put everything on there. Not so much on the surface because he's Aleister Crowley. He's occulted a lot of it, but he's brought a lot more of it out than most other artists have. Somebody else drew it. Lady Frida Harris actually did the Crowley Thoth deck under his advice.
Right.
I think she paid him actually.
For the privilege.
He's white. I love that wanker.
Well, on that note, we're going to sign off after this wonderful excursion with Ryan 7 yet again, and we will await your return
Anytime,
for
guys,
another
anytime.
time. And we'll see you fuckers for part 2 very shortly after a small piss break and refreshment. Okay.
Bye.
Ta-ra.
Like,